Here's a quick tutorial on how to use the FantasyoMatic.com draft cheat sheet for 2010. You'll notice when you first open up the file that it opens up to a draft board list. This file will query the server that has all of the latest draft board updates. So for example, if you receive the file on a Thursday and then you go back on a Sunday, it will load all of Sunday's most recent draft board information. You'll see that it has a player listed, whether or not they're injured or suspended, and you'll also notice that it's got the fantasy position, or this is where they should be started or seen as a RB1 versus an RB2, that type of thing. And then the FPA score, which is something that you can see on FantasyoMatic.com. It is a ranking of that team's position combination and their strength of schedule, along with various other factors weighted in for the 2010 season. So the lowest number in that case is the most appealing. You'll also see the FantasyoMatic draft position, and you'll notice that all of the names are sorted and grouped in that order. So for the FantasyoMatic draft position, for example, here we've got Maurice Jones-Drew going number 1. But you'll notice here that there's the average draft position, which is a consensus draft query here that comes up with about 12, 13 different of the most popular drafting sites, and it includes mock drafting and live drafting and the average draft position that these players are being taken. So you'll notice here in the case of Maurice Jones-Drew, FantasyoMatic has him as the player to take number 1, and the consensus ADP it says number 2. So here we have the difference between those two. So you'll notice that there is a 2-point difference. So this is a very important number in that it indicates that FantasyoMatic tells you that this player is undervalued and therefore should be taken higher than they are going in normal drafts. You'll also notice that in some cases players are overvalued. So here we see Drew Brees, who's normally going in consensus drafts at a number 9, and FantasyoMatic indicates number 12, so that's difference is represented here by a -2. You'll also notice that there's a third category involved in the ADP, and this one's very important. This indicates the movement in the consensus drafts. So for example, you see Ryan Matthews. What this indicates is that his average draft position of 17 used to be an average draft position of 19, and therefore he's moved up 2 places. So that'll be represented by a negative number or a green number. In the case of some items here, you'll see in Peyton Manning's case, he has an average draft position of 14, which used to be 11, but he's dropped 3 places. So between the combination of the diff value and the ADP plus and minus, you'll be able to determine whether a player is overvalued and should be taken earlier than the other owners in your league will take them, or if you should take them later. And of course, you've got the bye weeks to help you manage the different buys throughout your draft. You don't want to double up on those too much if you can avoid that. So you'll notice one thing here is that when you are using this file, which is what it's intended to do, when you're using it during your draft, if another owner takes one of the players, all you have to do is click on the green checkbox and you'll notice that that player is removed and the entire draft board is moved up. It maintains its FantasyoMatic draft order no matter who's taken, and this will give you the easiest visibility for best player on the board. And if you get to a certain point in the draft where you're only looking for running backs or quarterbacks or wide receivers or tight ends, you can see that you can hit one of these buttons and then a new window will appear, except this window will only show the best on the board running backs as ranked by the FantasyoMatic projected position. If you go back to the wide receivers, you can show just wide receivers, or you can go back to your original draft cheat sheet. You'll notice on the top list, running back list by round. Go to the one that says draft cheat sheet and for instance hit tight ends, and you see that one says tight ends by round and so on. So you can use that if you're just searching for a particular player. You should also know that there's a way to reset the draft. After you've finished doing a mock draft, or if you have multiple drafts and you want to get everything back in order again, hit reset draft and then it'll go and check the FantasyoMatic.com server and load the most recent data from the FantasyoMatic draft board. In addition, you've got this button right here that says Go to Draft Board. This is another view that we've provided for you that gives you a more exploded view or a more detailed view of each player. So you'll notice that this has the same player information, but you can use this view or the other list view. So here what you've got is the same kind of reset draft board. So you'll want to go ahead and hit the reset draft board, and you'll see it'll go and update all of your different information. And then you'll see that this area here is cleared out, and these are the chosen players. So this gives you some visibility on players that are chosen already. So you do the same thing here, hit the green checkbox, and you'll notice that that player shows up, and you hit, let's say, Ray Rice in this case, they show up here. But the other thing you'll notice, you have the same columns as you had in the other view, but you'll notice that this little blue arrow, what you can do is click on this blue arrow, and it'll load the details of a given player off to the right. So you'll see the player name, and then you'll get all the information that's ever been written about them in FantasyoMatic.com, as well as all the details on their strength of schedule outlook. And this great bonus feature here, you'll notice that we've given you the latest up-to-date strength of schedule chart so that you can see where the easy matchups are. And of course, the lowest number on the chart indicates the easiest matchups. So you can do a little bit of previewing by clicking on the blue arrow and reading a little bit of information about the player as indicated on the FantasyoMatic.com site. And then this is the same type of thing here. If you want to filter this list by just wide receivers, you'll click the wide receiver button, and you'll notice on the top of the screen that just wide receivers are being shown now, as indicated by the gray wide receiver. And so you can take the best on the board wide receiver, and again, as other owners are taking players off the board, you can see them listed here. This little blue arrow here will reset to show you all the available players. And once you're done with your draft, you can hit the reset draft button, which will clear out both draft boards. And this button right here, back to draft list, will take you back to this list view, where of course you can reset the draft if it's not already done that way, or you can just continue on using this view instead of the draft board view. The last thing to show is this .xls export. If you hit this button, a window will come up asking you where you want to save a spreadsheet, and if you hit this automatically open file, you'll see that the spreadsheet will then be produced and then opened up automatically inside of Excel. And this is something that you can use if you want to massage the data in a certain way or create your own customized draft sheet. It'll contain all the information that you see within the database, and certainly this is something, if you have more of a preference, you can use this. You'll see that there's a lot of information here, and that's because these are the notes. So if you really open up all this information by simply doing a auto format, for example, you'll be able to see things here like all the description and then the strength of schedule and that type of thing. So if you prefer using Excel, you can just export the latest data out of Excel. The only disadvantage to that is that this file will always load the most recent draft board data from FantasyoMatic.com. You won't necessarily have that with your spreadsheet. So I hope you find this tool useful. Thanks for checking it out.